High above the city street, suspended by cables that connected him to rooftops most people never saw, worked a window washer named Gabriel, who possessed an extraordinary gift that went far beyond cleaning glass. While his squeegee removed dirt and grime from the outside of windows, something magical happened on the inside. He could clear away the fog and distortion that clouded people's memories, helping them see their past with sudden clarity and truth. Gabriel had discovered his unusual ability on a gray Tuesday morning while cleaning the windows of a therapist's office building. As he worked on the exterior glass, carefully removing months of accumulated city dust, he noticed through the window that a patient inside was crying during her session. The moment his squeegee cleared the glass completely, the woman's expression changed dramatically. Her face relaxed, her tears stopped, and she began speaking animatedly to her therapist with what looked like sudden understanding. Curious about what had happened, Gabriel had asked the building's receptionist about the woman. She explained that the patient had been stuck for months trying to remember details about a childhood incident that was affecting her adult relationships, and that very morning, during her session, the memories had suddenly become crystal clear, not traumatic or overwhelming, but simply visible in a way they hadn't been before. Gabriel began experimenting with his gift, paying careful attention to the correlation between his window cleaning and the sudden clarity people seemed to experience inside. He learned that his ability worked best on windows of spaces where people were actively trying to remember or understand their past, therapist offices, certainly, but also childhood bedrooms in family homes, libraries where people researched their ancestry, and even the windows of cars where people sat lost in thought about their histories. The magic seemed to work through a principle Gabriel didn't fully understand but gradually learned to trust. Just as exterior dirt and grime obscured the view through a window, trauma, shame, denial, and the simple passage of time could cloud memories, making them distorted, incomplete, or completely inaccessible. When Gabriel cleaned a window with focused intention, he wasn't just removing physical residue, he was also clearing away the psychological barriers that prevented people from seeing their past accurately. Gabriel's most profound work happened at an assisted living facility where many residents suffered from dementia and memory loss. The facility's activities director noticed that after Gabriel cleaned the windows in the common room, several residents who had been lost in confusion suddenly had moments of perfect clarity, recognizing their family members and recalling stories they hadn't been able to access in years. These moments of lucidity didn't last permanently, but they occurred with increased frequency in rooms with freshly cleaned windows. One of Gabriel's most memorable assignments was cleaning the windows of a woman named Sarah, who had contacted him specifically after hearing rumors about his unusual effect on people's memories. Sarah had experienced a traumatic car accident at age 16 that had left her with physical scars and significant memory gaps about the event. For 20 years, she had lived with a distorted narrative about what happened, believing she had been responsible for the accident that injured her younger sister. As Gabriel worked on Sarah's bedroom window, the one that faced the street where the accident had occurred, something remarkable happened. Sarah, who had been sitting on her bed watching him work, suddenly gasped as memories began flooding back with pristine clarity. She saw the accident exactly as it had happened, not caused by her teenage recklessness as she had always believed, but by another driver running a red light. More importantly, she remembered how she had actually saved her sister by swerving at the last moment, preventing a direct impact that would have been much worse. The cleared memories transformed Sarah's entire understanding of herself. For 2 decades, she had carried guilt and shame that had never been warranted, had made life choices based on a false belief that she was reckless and destructive. With the window cleaned and her memories restored to accuracy, she could finally forgive herself for something that had never been her fault and begin living without the weight of unearned shame. Gabriel learned that his gift didn't only restore lost memories, it also corrected distorted ones. Human memory was notoriously unreliable, colored by emotion, assumption, and the stories people told themselves over time. When Gabriel cleaned certain windows, people would suddenly realize that events they remembered as shameful or traumatic actually contained elements of courage, love, or resilience they had overlooked. A man remembered that during his parents' divorce, he hadn't been the burden he had always believed himself to be, but rather a source of joy that had helped both parents through difficult times. The window washer discovered that some memories needed to remain clouded for a while longer, and his gift seemed to respect this wisdom. No matter how thoroughly he cleaned certain windows, the memories inside wouldn't clear until the person was psychologically ready to handle them. Gabriel learned to sense which windows would respond to his cleaning and which needed to be left alone, trusting that the fog would lift naturally when the time was right. Children's memories responded differently to Gabriel's window cleaning than adults' memories. When he worked on windows of children's rooms, the clearing effect often revealed not forgotten events but previously unnoticed details that provided context and understanding. A child who had felt abandoned when his mother went to the hospital could suddenly remember that she had left him detailed notes and recordings, evidence of love that his young mind had been too overwhelmed to notice at the time. Gabriel's work attracted the attention of researchers studying memory and trauma, though he could never adequately explain the mechanics of his gift. Brain scientists wanted to study him, but Gabriel understood that some magic couldn't be reduced to neurons and synapses. What mattered wasn't the explanation but the result, people gaining access to their true histories, freed from the distortions that had been causing them pain. One of Gabriel's most challenging assignments came from a woman named Elena who wanted him to clean the windows of her grandmother's old house, recently inherited after the elderly woman's death. Elena had spent summers there as a child but had only vague, dreamlike memories of those times. As Gabriel cleaned the windows, Elena stood inside and suddenly remembered details with perfect clarity, not just happy memories of baking cookies and playing in the garden, but also the truth that her grandmother had been protecting her from an abusive situation at home, providing a safe haven that had literally saved her childhood. The cleared memories allowed Elena to understand her grandmother's love in its full dimension and to recognize that she had always been protected and valued, even when circumstances had made her feel unwanted. The window cleaning didn't just restore memories, it restored Elena's sense of being worthy of love and care. Gabriel learned that group spaces required special attention. When he cleaned the windows of a family therapy center, multiple family members would simultaneously experience clearing of shared memories, often realizing that they each had been holding different pieces of the same truth. This collective memory restoration could be powerful for healing family dynamics, as people recognized misunderstandings and miscommunications that had created years of conflict. The window washer's gift extended to helping people remember not just traumatic events but also beautiful moments that had been lost to the ordinary fog of busy lives. Grandparents would suddenly recall the exact details of their wedding days with crystalline clarity. Parents would remember the specific joy of their children's first words. People could access the feeling of important accomplishments that had been dulled by time and subsequent challenges. Gabriel discovered that his ability worked on metaphorical windows as well as physical ones. When he cleaned the windshield of a taxi driver who had been struggling with depression, the man suddenly remembered a crucial conversation with his father about finding meaning in service to others, a memory that had been obscured by years of feeling that his work was meaningless. The cleared memory restored the driver's sense of purpose and dignity. As Gabriel aged and considered retirement, he worried that his gift would be lost. But he learned something beautiful: people whose memories he had helped clear often developed their own abilities to help others see through fog and distortion. They became natural therapists, mediators, and healers, carrying forward the understanding that truth and clarity were always available beneath the clouds that sometimes obscured them. On his final day of work, Gabriel cleaned the windows of a small elementary school. As he worked, he could sense children inside classrooms suddenly remembering moments of encouragement from teachers, words of love from parents, instances of their own kindness and capability. He was giving them access to memories that would serve as foundations for self-esteem and resilience throughout their lives. The window washer who cleaned away clouded memories left behind a legacy that extended far beyond sparkling glass. He had taught people that memory was not fixed or final, that the past could be seen more clearly when the fog of assumption and trauma was removed, and that accessing true memories, both beautiful and difficult, was essential for living authentically in the present and building a future free from the distortions that had been holding them captive.